Most people live their lives on the surface of the internet, scrolling, posting, liking, sharing. But beneath that shiny surface, there's a world most never see. A world that's hidden, unfiltered, raw. For 48 hours, I went there, the dark web. And what I found wasn't just shocking, it was a mirror showing the darkest corners of human behavior, but also the deepest truths about who we are, what we fear, and what we're capable of. Today, I'm not here to glorify it. I'm here to show you how even in the darkest places, there are lessons that can transform your life if you're willing to face them. When I first entered the dark web, I'll be honest with you, my body tightened up. My pulse was racing. It felt like I had just stepped into a place I wasn't supposed to be. There was this weight, this tension, this whisper in my head saying, what if this goes wrong? What if you see something you can't unsee? What if you open the wrong door? And that's when it hit me, this wasn't just about the dark web. This was about fear itself. Because fear doesn't just show up in the hidden corners of the internet. It shows up in every one of our lives every single day. Think about it. How many times have you wanted to make a change? Start the business, have that tough conversation, walk into a new opportunity. But something inside of you stopped you. That same whisper I heard is the same whisper you hear, Faf. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? What if I lose everything? The truth is, fear is nothing more than a story we tell ourselves about what might happen. Most of the time, it never actually happens. But the story is powerful enough to keep us frozen, stuck in place, living in the shadows instead of stepping into the light. Now, here's the reality: fear is not going anywhere. You can't erase it. You can't delete it from your mind like clearing a browser history. Fear will always be there because it's wired into our survival. But growth doesn't come from avoiding fear. It comes from facing it head-on. That's what those 48 hours showed me. Every click, every page, every step deeper into that world forced me to lean into the discomfort instead of running away from it. And isn't that exactly what life demands of us? The people who create the life they dream of aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who feel it, acknowledge it, and then move forward anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in spite of fear. It's saying, yes, I hear that whisper, I feel that weight, but I will not let it control me. That is the turning point. That is the moment where fear transforms from being your prison into being your teacher. See, fear teaches you something important. It points directly to the areas of your life where you have the most room to grow. If you're afraid of speaking in public, that's the place you need to step into. If you're afraid of starting over, that's the direction life is pulling you toward. If you're afraid of failing, it means you're about to attempt something worthy of your potential. Fear is the compass pointing you to the next level of your life. But most people, instead of following it, run from it. And in running, they stay trapped in the same cycle year after year. When I was on the dark web, I realized something strange. The more I leaned into it, the less power it had over me. The first hour, I was tense, overthinking every move. The second hour, I started to breathe. By the third hour, I understood the environment. By the fourth hour, I wasn't afraid anymore. I was in control. That's how fear works in your life too. The moment you expose yourself to it, the moment you step into what you're scared of, you strip away its illusion. You see it for what it really is, just resistance trying to keep you small. But here's the hard truth. You can't think your way out of fear. You can't journal your way out of it. You can't wait for the perfect moment when the fear magically disappears. The only way out is through action. You move forward, and in moving, the fear dissolves. The action is the cure. The courage is in the doing. So I want you to think right now, what's the dark web in your life? What's that hidden space you've avoided exploring because you're afraid of what you'll find? Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your relationships. Wherever it is, I promise you this. On the other side of that fear is a stronger, freer version of you waiting to be unleashed. And if you don't face it, the fear will own you. It will keep whispering. It will keep you small. But if you step into it, if you lean into the darkness, you'll discover a power inside you that you didn't even know was there. Because growth begins the moment you walk into what you fear most. When I spent time on the dark web, one of the first things I noticed was that no one was who they said they were. Everyone was hiding behind a mask. No real names, no real faces, just usernames, avatars, and facades carefully constructed to conceal the truth. And as I watched, it struck me. That world wasn't really all that different from ours. Because every single day, in the so-called real world, we do the exact same thing. We may not be using encrypted browsers or hidden identities, but we put on masks. We filter our pictures, we adjust our words, we downplay who we are in certain rooms, and we exaggerate in others. We hide pieces of ourselves because we fear judgment, rejection, or simply not being accepted for who we truly are. And here's the truth. Every mask we wear is a wall between us and the life we actually want to live. We think the mask will protect us, but in reality, it keeps us trapped. Just like the dark web promises freedom through anonymity, but actually creates isolation, our own masks promise safety, but leave us feeling disconnected from ourselves and from others. Think about it. How many times in your life have you watered down your real self just to fit in? How many times have you bitten your tongue when you wanted to speak your truth? How many times have you smiled on the outside while screaming on the inside? That's the cost of wearing masks. They may get us temporary acceptance, but they rob us of authentic connection. See, authenticity is power. But we're so used to playing roles that our family expects, roles society expects, roles we think we need to play just to be loved, that we lose sight of who we really are. And when you forget who you are, you start living someone else's life. You wake up every day performing instead of living, and you wonder why you feel exhausted, why you feel disconnected, why even in a room full of people you sometimes feel alone. It's because the world isn't connecting with you. It's connecting with the mask you've been wearing. And here's the problem with masks. They don't just hide you from others. They hide you from yourself. You start believing the act. You start believing the story. You convince yourself that the edited, watered-down version is who you really are. And that's dangerous because deep inside, your soul knows the truth. It knows you're meant to shine brighter, to speak louder, to live freer. And that inner conflict, the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be, creates pain, stress, and anxiety that no amount of distraction can numb. When I watched people interact on the dark web, it was wild. Some people used their masks to scam, others to hide, others to explore sides of themselves they were too afraid to show in daylight. And I thought, isn't it the same thing we do on social media? On a first date? In a job interview? We exaggerate, we hide, we project. We're desperate to be accepted, but terrified to be seen. But here's the paradox. The very thing you're hiding is the very thing people are craving, the real you. Because authenticity has a power that no mask can compete with. And I get it, taking off the mask is terrifying. Because once the mask is off, you risk rejection. But here's what I can tell you, rejection is better than regret. Rejection means you showed up as you, and someone else couldn't handle it. Regret means you never showed up at all. And there's nothing heavier than living with the regret of knowing you never gave the world the chance to love you for who you really are. So, I want you to ask yourself, where in your life are you still hiding? Where are you performing? Where are you wearing a mask to feel safe? Maybe it's at work. Maybe it's in your relationship. Maybe it's when you look in the mirror and pretend you're fine when you know you're not. Whatever it is, I want you to remember this. The mask may feel safe, but it's killing your freedom. The moment you take it off, yes, you might feel vulnerable. Yes, you might feel exposed, but that's where life begins. That's where true connection happens. That's where you reclaim your power. Because true freedom begins when you stop hiding from yourself and others. When I was on the dark web, it became clear very quickly that it was a marketplace of extremes. Anything you could imagine, things you'd never even want to imagine, was available with a few clicks. And in that environment, temptation was everywhere. It was almost overwhelming because it felt like the rules didn't apply, like anything was possible if you were willing to just go a little further down the rabbit hole. But the truth is, that same pattern shows up in our everyday lives. Maybe it doesn't look as dark or as dramatic, but the pull is the same. The temptation to cut corners, to take the easy road, to get the quick fix instead of doing the real work. That temptation is what keeps people from ever becoming who they're meant to be. Temptation always shows up dressed like an opportunity. It whispers, this is faster. This is easier. No one will ever know. And in that moment, you feel like you're making a choice that doesn't really matter. But the truth is, every choice matters. Every decision is like a click. You think it's small, you think it's harmless, but it's either taking you one step closer to the life you want or one step deeper into a place you don't want to be. And the deeper you go, the harder it is to climb back out. We all face these moments. Maybe for you, it's staying up late scrolling when you promised yourself you'd wake up early to work on your goals. Maybe it's that one more drink when you said you'd stop. Maybe it's settling in a relationship because it feels safer than being alone. On the surface, these look like tiny decisions, but stacked up day after day, they shape your destiny. Your life right now is nothing more than the accumulation of the choices you've made. And if you're not happy with where you are, it's because too many of those choices were made to satisfy a moment instead of building a future. What I realized during those 48 hours is that temptation isn't really about the thing itself. It's about power. Who has the power in your life? Do you control your choices, or do your choices control you? Every time you give in to temptation, you're giving away a piece of your power. And the more you do it, the weaker you feel, the more out of control your life becomes. But when you resist, when you make the harder choice, when you sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term growth, you start reclaiming your power piece by piece. Now, this doesn't mean you have to live a life with no fun, no enjoyment, no spontaneity. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this discipline is freedom. The ability to say no to what doesn't serve you is what opens the door to the life you actually want. Because every yes to temptation is a no to your future. And every no to temptation is a yes to your destiny. And listen, I know it's not easy. The easier path will always look more attractive in the moment. That's how our brains are wired. We chase comfort, we chase pleasure, we chase the quick hit of dopamine. But if you live only for that, you sacrifice the deeper fulfillment that only comes from persistence, sacrifice, and commitment. Think about the people you admire most. Do you respect them because they always took the easy way? No. You respect them because they faced temptation and chose discipline. Because they were willing to pay the price now for the reward later. I want you to think right now about the choices you've been making. Where are you trading your future for a moment of comfort? Where are you clicking deeper into the wrong path, convincing yourself it's no big deal? Because every one of those clicks, every one of those decisions is shaping the story of your life. And one day, you're going to look back and realize whether you built a life of meaning or a life of regret. So when temptation shows up, and it will, you have to decide, am I going to give in to what's easy, or am I going to step into what's necessary? Because the truth is simple. Every choice you make is either pulling you closer to your destiny or dragging you deeper into distraction. After spending hours in that hidden space, one thing became very clear to me. When you're surrounded by darkness long enough, you start to crave the light in ways you never thought about before. It's not something you notice right away, but it creeps up on you. The longer I sat there reading, exploring, watching what unfolded in that world, the more I realized how heavy it felt. It wasn't just the information on the screen. It was the energy of it all. It was the absence of joy, the absence of openness, the absence of light. And when I finally stepped away, when I came back to my own world, I felt this deep wave of gratitude for the simple things I normally overlook. The sunlight coming through the window, the sound of laughter, the feeling of being able to breathe without that weight pressing down. That experience reminded me of something so many of us forget. Sometimes it takes the contrast of darkness to remind us of the beauty of the light. And isn't that true in life? You don't value happiness the same way until you've walked through sadness. You don't appreciate health until you've battled sickness. You don't fully honor love until you've experienced heartbreak, the very things we wish we could avoid. The pain, the struggle, the darkness are the same things that give our moments of light their meaning. Without that contrast, the joy feels ordinary. But when you've been through the storm, the sun feels like a miracle. The problem is, when people are in the dark seasons of life, they think it means something is wrong with them. They think they're broken, or cursed, or unlucky. But what if that darkness is not punishment, but preparation? What if it's the very thing shaping you into the kind of person who can handle the life you've been asking for? Because the truth is, strength isn't built in the light. Strength is forged in the dark, when you don't know if you'll make it, when everything feels like it's falling apart, when you're forced to dig deeper than you ever thought you could. That's where resilience is born. I think about all the people who've achieved greatness, not just in terms of success, but in terms of impact. None of them got there without walking through seasons of darkness. They went through rejection, failure, loss, disappointment. And it was those very experiences that gave them the depth, the empathy, the perspective to rise higher and to help others. The light meant more to them because they had been tested by the dark. And I know some of you right now might be in a season like that. Maybe it feels heavy. Maybe it feels endless. Maybe you're asking yourself, why me? Why now? But hear me on this, you're not in the dark because you're weak. You're in the dark because you're strong enough to make it through. And when you come out the other side, you won't just survive it. You'll be transformed by it. You'll see the world differently. You'll love harder. You'll appreciate more. You'll realize that the very thing you thought was breaking you is actually building you. See, light without darkness is invisible. If it's always sunny, you stop noticing the sun. If everything was always perfect, you'd stop appreciating it. Life gives us contrast so we can fully feel it. So the next time you're in a struggle, instead of only asking, "How do I get out of this?" also ask, "What is this teaching me? What strength am I building right now that I'll thank myself for later?" That simple shift changes the way you experience everything. Because suddenly, the darkness is not the end of your story. It's just a chapter. And the chapter after the dark one is always the chapter where the light breaks through. And when that light comes, when you finally feel it after walking through the shadows, it's not just light anymore. It's liberation. It's the kind of gratitude that makes you cry. It's the kind of appreciation that makes even the smallest things feel like gifts. That's when you realize it was all worth it. Because the contrast of darkness is what makes the light meaningful. Your struggles are what give your victories power. One of the most striking things I noticed during those 48 hours was how the dark web operates. It's not random. It's designed. It pulls you in with curiosity, then it holds you with systems of secrecy, addiction, and control. You think you're the one in charge, clicking around, exploring, making your own choices, but in reality, the system is leading you. And as I sat there watching this unfold, I realized that's exactly how life works for so many people. You think you're free, you think you're choosing, but if you're not careful, the environment, the habits, the patterns around you are making those choices for you. Look at the world we live in right now. Social media is engineered to keep you scrolling. Notifications are designed to keep you distracted. Your habits are shaped by routines you didn't even consciously agree to. And if you're not intentional, if you don't take back control, those patterns will dictate your life. Before you know it, 10 years pass, and you wonder why you're still in the same place, why you feel stuck, why you don't feel fulfilled. It's not because you didn't have potential. It's because you let the systems around you lead your life instead of leading it yourself. Control is everything. When you decide you're going to be the one steering, everything changes. But most people give that control away without even realizing it. They let their emotions control them. They let their past control them. They let fear control them. Some let toxic relationships or negative environments control their choices. Some let comfort control them. They trade progress for what feels safe. And just like the dark web has a way of pulling you deeper into its shadows, life will do the same if you don't draw the line and say, "No more. I'm the one in charge now." But here's the thing, taking back control doesn't mean controlling everything that happens to you. You can't control every circumstance. You can't control other people. You can't control the storms that life throws your way. What you can control is your response. You control your state, your decisions, your focus, your discipline. That's where your real power lies. And the moment you reclaim that, you stop being a victim of life and you start becoming the author of it. I remember sitting there on that second night, realizing how easy it is for someone to lose themselves if they're not conscious. One wrong click, one wrong decision, and suddenly they're deeper in than they ever planned to be. That's how habits work too. One compromise, one excuse, one, "I'll start tomorrow," and suddenly months pass, then years, and you've drifted so far from who you wanted to be that you hardly recognize yourself. But the flip side is just as true. One right choice, one moment of discipline, one decision to act instead of delay, and that becomes momentum. That becomes the beginning of taking your power back. Every day you're either being pulled by life or you're leading it. There is no in between. And if you want to create a future you're proud of, you've got to step into that role fully. That means setting standards for yourself higher than the world sets for you. That means deciding your phone doesn't own you. Your fears don't own you. Your comfort doesn't own you. You own them. You set the terms. Because when you lead your life with intention, discipline, and clarity, you start shaping the world around you instead of being shaped by it. And yes, it's hard. Discipline is uncomfortable. Clarity takes work. Leadership, real leadership over yourself, demands sacrifice. But here's the truth, if you don't pay that price, you'll pay a much bigger one later. You'll pay with regret. You'll pay with wasted years. You'll pay with the pain of knowing you could have lived differently but didn't. And that's a cost no one wants to carry. So I'll leave you with this. Life will try to control you, just like that hidden world tried to control me. But at any moment, you have the power to flip the script. You can decide. You can take back your focus, your habits, your state, your life. And the moment you do, everything changes. Because you must decide to lead your life with intention, discipline, and clarity. Otherwise, the shadows will lead it for you. So after those 48 hours in the darkest corners of the internet, I walked away with one truth burned into me: life is no different. We all face shadows. We all face fear, masks, temptation, seasons of darkness, and the constant pull to let outside forces control us. But the difference between those who merely survive and those who truly live is simple. They choose to face it. They choose to step into fear instead of hiding from it, to take off the mask and live authentically, to rise above temptation and fight for their future, to find meaning in the dark seasons, and to take back control of their own story. And that's the choice in front of you right now. You don't have to wait. You don't have to drift. You don't have to live in the shadows. You can make the decision today to face your fear, to reclaim your power, and to step into the light of the life you were created to live. Because at the end of the day, it's not the darkness that defines you. It's how you choose to rise out of it.